All right, we're about to dive into a journey that is, well, it's a wild one. It kicks off in the absolute chaos of a London pub fight, and somehow it ends with a roadmap to mental clarity. This is the story of Mark Tullok, a man who walked through his own personal hell and came back with a system to help guide the rest of us. And this whole thing, it's built on one core belief. You see it right here, that truth is the medicine, and that even the most chaotic minds carry genius. This is really the key that unlocks his entire transformation. It's this idea that brilliance isn't something that happens despite the chaos, but can actually be found right there inside of it.
So let's start where he did, right in the thick of it. We are entering his world of chaos, the world of the pub and the punch.
Now, to really understand the chaos, you have to get a sense of the scale here. Mark was running the Sussex Arms in Covent Garden, a place that was pulling in £50,000 a week. Yeah, this was not your quiet corner pub. It was a high-pressure, high-volume beast right in the heart of London. And he wasn't just, working in this environment, he was the environment. As he puts it, Covent Garden was chaos. I was its heartbeat. He absolutely thrived on that manic energy, thinking it was just passion, just drive. But of course, something else was brewing just under the surface.
And this is the turning point. This is where the chaos outside became completely tangled with his state of mind inside. He had this realization. I wasn't breaking up trouble. I was the trouble. The pub fights weren't about keeping the peace anymore. They were an explosion of the storm that was raging inside of him.
So after all those physical explosions came the internal implosion. That chaos just couldn't be contained anymore, and this monster he was living with was finally about to get a name. This is the absolute bottom. He was sectioned, institutionalized. They took his belt, his shoelaces. They took his pride. It was a complete dismantling of the identity he'd built for himself, the tough pub manager. Everything was stripped away, leaving him completely raw and vulnerable. And in that broken state, he was finally given a clinical name for the chaos he'd been living his entire life: Bipolar I disorder. It's a condition known for its intense manic episodes, sometimes even with psychotic features. And just like that, those unexplainable highs and crushing lows, they had a name. But look, getting a label isn't a magic wand. It's not a solution. As Mark says himself, the diagnosis didn't fix anything. It just gave the monster a name. The fight was so far from over. But now, for the first time, he knew exactly what he was fighting against. And the fallout from all this? It was catastrophic. The crash that came after the breakdown cost him absolutely everything: his job, his marriage, his connection with his son. Hitting rock bottom like that was just devastating, but it was also the only foundation left, the only place from which something new could be built. Which brings us to this radical shift. From the non-stop noise of London to the quiet of Bali, this is the rebirth. This is the journey from chaos into stillness. This slide here, it perfectly shows the fundamental rewiring of his whole operating system. He traded what he called the street code, which is all about survival, dominance, fighting the world, for the soul code, which is built on reflection, stillness, and trying to understand yourself. It was a total paradigm shift. And this is the profound lesson he learned there. Stillness isn't silence. It's power without noise. He discovered that real strength wasn't in the roar of a fight or the chaos of the pub. It was in the quiet, grounded power you find in self-awareness. But he didn't just find peace for himself. He used that newfound clarity to build something really practical. He came back from his journey not just healed, but with what he calls a system of light for other people. And this is that system he created, the Bipolar Aware Framework. It's a 4-step process to manage that internal chaos. First, you map your spectrum, figure out your unique energy levels. Then you track your patterns so you can see the storm coming. Third, you build your rituals for inner discipline. And finally, you reframe your identity. You go from seeing yourself as broken to brilliant but misaligned. It's a path from being a victim to becoming the architect of your own mind. Now, at the very heart of this framework is this really radical idea. He says the crash is sacred. It's where truth lives. It's where the ego dies. So he takes the most feared part of the bipolar cycle, the crash, and reframes it. It's not a failure anymore. It's a sacred opportunity for deep insight and growth. Pretty powerful stuff. But, a framework is just a theory until you actually live it. And this final part of the story shows how the path you walk, well, that becomes the proof. He asks, how do you really know if you're getting better? The answer isn't in a doctor's diagnosis or a pill. It's in your life. Are your relationships getting better? Are you less reactive? Are you sleeping more? Can you say no without feeling guilty? Are you building something that matters to you? These are the real-world metrics of healing. And it all comes down to this simple, powerful idea. Your path becomes your proof. The evidence that you're healing isn't some abstract concept. It's a life that's finally working. A life that you no longer feel like you have to escape from. And so, this all leads to a question, really, for every single one of us. The next time that darkness comes knocking, what then? The final message here really takes this intensely personal story and makes it a universal truth. Remember, we've all been there. We've all felt broken. We've all struggled. This journey from chaos to clarity isn't just about one man's diagnosis. It's a human path, and surviving it doesn't make you weak. It makes you a warrior.